and YouTube, just so I can get this out to all of my followers. Welcome. Good to see you guys. So tonight we're going to cover a few things. We are going to cover the main topic, which is what did I learn most from Wrangler, and then I'm also going to announce who the winners are of our Christmas giveaway. So our Christmas giveaway I sent out to the email list. If you didn't get an email, then you need to go to barjailhorsetraining.com and get our free ebook. And at our free ebook, or when you do that, you'll be put onto our mailing list, and I'll send you out emails, monthly newsletters, and people had the chance to enter this draw for a 1-year free subscription to our training program. We're going to give 3 of those away. We had 18 people reply, and so we're pretty excited. So let's get in. I'm gonna, just in case you're not completely familiar with the story of Wrangler, I'm gonna give us a bit of a debriefing here. So Wrangler was a 4-year-old gelding, belonged to the Garners at the Rocking Heart Ranch, and the Rocking Heart Ranch does a colt starting competition every year, and at this competition people compete to see who can train the best, do the best training job on a horse in 60 days. I had the chance to go in and I won it in 2018. And so then the next year they called me back and said, "Hey Joel, we have a few 4-year-olds that we need to sell. We're going to put you in what's called the trainer or the champion showcase." So in the champion showcase, they brought back a few people who had won the competition in the past and had them train some of their 4-year-olds, which they had us train some of these 4-year-olds to showcase at the sale or at the challenge/sale, and then they could sell them. They called me and said, "Joel, we have the horse for you. We don't know anyone else who we think could do it," which I think might have been them trying to boost my confidence. And anyways, they said, he's sensitive. We will give him to you for a couple weeks. You let us know if you think he'll turn out. And I kind of took it on as a challenge for myself. I was like, this horse is going to be tough, but I want to see what I can do. So I got out to the ranch to pick Wrangler up, and of course he's the furthest one back in the pen. He's sitting there, nowhere near the herd. He's like, "I don't want anything to do with you people." And that's how it was. You know, it took 2-3 weeks before I even was riding him. It was a very long, slow process. Even after I'd been riding him for a month, this really will give you a good indicator on how he was. My buddy was helping me throw the packs on him, and he reached to pass me the back cinch, and maybe he was standing in the wrong spot, but Wrangler cow kicked him right in the knee. just par for the course. When I say he was a tough horse, I don't mean he was a bad horse. He was just a horse that had a lot of insecurities and a really high sensitivity level. And so I took this horse, worked him for the 60 days, brought him to the challenge, and my whole goal was I want to go to this challenge with this horse they said was hard, and I want to have a horse that could be a pretty stiff competition compared to any of these other horses that are actually competing. And I feel like we did it. I think I was up there with the best of them at that challenge day, and it was a hard journey. If you haven't seen the video, go and watch Riding Wrangler. It's one of the most rewarding videos I've ever made. It's a good one. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the trap I find myself in when working horses like Wrangler. This is the hardest part for me with working these horses is typically I do not have these horses in long enough to hit that breakthrough. Now Wrangler, I was pushing it hard. Like I pushed myself, I pushed him. I took things out of my comfort zone. but most of the time when I have a horse like that, there isn't the time frame that's just pushing on me, and so I I do typically take it slower with those horses. I recently had one or two in, and they were maybe not to the Wrangler's extreme, but they were quite sensitive, and I took my time, and by the end of it, they were so quiet and so easygoing. But it takes 2-3 months to break through, to get on the same page with these horses sometimes. Like it takes a lot more time. Um, I've had a few over the years that it's just like I'm finished a month, I'm finished 2 months. I don't know. I don't think this horse is for you or for this owner. And so that's a big struggle when I get these sensitive horses in, is whether they'll work for the owner. That is my biggest thing. I always want my product to be user friendly. If the owner can't ride the horse I rode, like I could ride Wrangler, but if they can't ride him, then something's wrong. And so I have notes here. I'm just going to glance back at them every now and then. What did I do different with Wrangler as opposed to other horses? Wrangler took a lot of desensitizing, and more desensitizing. I have my groundwork routine. If you've seen my program on my website there, my groundwork routine I show on there shows pretty much everything I like to do with colts on the ground. Now, I sometimes get lazy and I cheat, and I don't go through the whole program, honestly, with most horses. But horses like Wrangler, I go through that whole program and I make sure it is spot on. The purpose of my groundwork stuff is all about making these horses move off of pressure, start thinking. That was Wrangler's big thing. Use the thinking side of his brain rather than that reactive side. And so with Wrangler, like I would add pressure and he never bucked, but he was explosive, and like he would like just put so much energy into everything and was scared. And so not only was the desensitizing so important, but also getting him with those groundwork exercises to move his feet, to start thinking, to think about yielding those hindquarters, to think about driving the front end through, backing him up, side passing him. I did everything, and I did it lots, just to try and get him to where he was thinking more. And so that was probably the biggest difference starting with Wrangler than most horses. When I was riding him, it was just lots of hard miles. Time out in the backcountry, that is a huge, I think it makes such a difference to a horse. A 30-kilometer day in the backcountry will just build the confidence on those horses. The first day I had Wrangler out in that backcountry, it was blowing about 60 kilometers, 70 kilometers per hour, and my shirt was flapping in the wind, and well, my horse, the Wrangler, he just grabbed his butt and took off. Well, I'm trying to gather him up. My father-in-law, he's the only other confident rider with us, and he was leading the pack horse. I said, Mark, pass the pack horse off. I need to come up next to you. And next time Wrangler took off, I just hazed him towards my father-in-law's horse. And as soon as he got next to that other horse, he calmed down and relaxed. And so I spent a lot of time that day just riding next to another horse. I love having another horse available that you can, with those sensitive colts, they just get so much comfort being next to another horse. But by the end of that day, I was loping up ahead and loping back and trotting around, and he did awesome. We rode 15 kilometers up to a lake called Blue Lake and 15 kilometers back. And he put on a pretty good sweat by the end of that. The big breakthrough moment, the moment where I was not worried about Wrangler. Like in the beginning, I was really concerned. Like, I don't like horses bolting on me. I don't like horses bucking. I don't like horses doing any of that. And neither does anyone I ride for. The moment where I knew that I was safe on Wrangler happened when I went on a pack trip with my buddy Colton. We rode about 15 kilometers back. On the way in there, I packed Wrangler, so he had a big top pack on him, and he did fantastic with the packs. We got there the next day. We were doing a day ride, and I was like, okay, well, I think I need you to snub me up for the first little while. And my buddy, there was three of us. There was Kale, Colton, and me, and they were both on green mules, and so I just manned up and said, well, I'm following behind you for the first little bit. And so that's what we did, and we started going up and back into the back country, going through these alders, and before you knew it, we were trotting, loping, going up the trail, confident. And most of the first half of that ride, the other guys on their mules were making fun of me, saying how mules are so much better in the backcountry and so much more sure-footed and better at everything. And I was like, well, me and Wrangler will show you what's what. And we ended up turning around before we got to the lake. Before we got to the lake we were shooting for, but for the last probably kilometer that we were bushwhacking, those mules would not lead the pack, but Wrangler was. And by the time we got back, it was just, I just felt so comfortable on them. We went swimming on them. It was a good day. There's a question here from Allie Rose. She says, did you do any preliminary work with Wrangler to try and prevent bolting on the ground? I did lots. Like, bolting, bucking, all of those ways of reacting to pressure, I find are when they start using that reactive side of their brain. Wrangler was so sensitive, so sensitive. And so I did, like I said earlier, so much groundwork trying to get him to use that thinking side of his brain. If I had been able to take more time, that might have helped. More time snubbed up next to another horse. I think all those things would have helped. But it's hard to say. Horses are horses. They have their own brain. They think for themselves. And so you can try everything with one horse and the next horse is different. So it's hard to say this always works, because it doesn't. But anyways, so to what I learned throughout that whole journey, I really learned the importance of relaxing. Now, I feel like I have a real quiet seat. I'm able to ride with these horses. Like when Wrangler would grab himself and go to take off, or any horse, it was really hard for me. And this has been something I've worked on for years, is just to take a deep breath, sit deep in your seat, hold on to your horn or your night latch or whatever it is. If you're prepared for it, do your best to stick with it. Just drive them through it. If you get tight every time and pull them around and stop them and just make it a big frustrating situation or like scary situation, he's going to think it's a scary situation. But if you do everything you can to make that situation relaxed and act like it was no big deal, then eventually the horse will start believing it too. Now, most horses, you don't have to do that much. Wrangler, I'll tell you what, there was a lot of butt puckered moments. And I just, for the first 10 rides in the arena, loping him, I did so many laps. I just, I like to lope a horse until they start slowing down, and him, there was a lot of fast laps, but if I always tried to slow him down, I think he would have drove into that bridle all the more. So I just let him go and tried to just stay calm, work with him, and it worked by the end of it. Like at the challenge there, I was working on my fast circles, slow circles. Now his slow circles weren't as slow as you would want if you were in a reining pattern, but for Wrangler, it was it was great progress. Brenda up here says, I have a horse just like Wrangler. He's great in the backcountry and being ponied, but any other work on the ground, any other work from the ground, he's super anxious. Any tips? My tip for those anxious horses that are tough to get thinking, like if they're always worried about other stuff, their brain is not on you. And so my advice in that situation would be exactly what I did with Wrangler. Change things up. Do thinking exercises. Get him thinking. If you always do the same thing day in, day out, they're going to get more spooky and more worried about those things. And that's what I really made an effort with Wrangler to keep things progressing. Keep pushing him, keep adding on the next day, building, because if I got in a rut, I would have been stuck. Another thing I learned, well, Wrangler was definitely the most insecure horse I stuck with. Like honestly, if you brought me a Wrangler today, I probably would say get a different horse. Just because of exactly what I was talking about earlier. It's riding's supposed to be fun, and eventually Wrangler started coming around. But even after I sold him, the next guy, he's a cow horse trainer, and I talked to him a few months later, and he said to me, "Too much horse for this cowboy," and he's a horse trainer. Like it's. I think there's a lot better minded horses out there. Not saying he's a evil bad horse, because he wasn't. He just had a lot of insecurities, and so it was a huge accomplishment to me to be able to see that I could bring a horse like that to the stage I got him. It was a huge confidence booster. There was a lot of days I didn't know whether it was going to work or not, but I was consistent, stuck with it, and it worked out. I also learned, and I kind of hinted to this, I learned what I like to ride. I'm great friends with Ryan Fleetwood. I don't know if you've ever heard of Fleetwood Farms Quarter Horses. They're a great place. I love their program. I currently own 3 colts from his program, and I'm in the works of getting more. They're just quiet, easy to work with, great mind, athletic. Every colt I've rode from that program has been that way. And so you look at horses like Wrangler, you watch that journey, like there was a lot of scary days for me. But if you've seen my Sterling videos, that's from Ryan's program. It's the exact opposite. And I don't think it needs to be like Wrangler. And I don't think those types of horses, like if you go to the right program, you won't be getting horses like that. And so that really helped me realize what kind of horses I want for my family. Now, I paid more for some of these well-bred, quiet horses, but to me, it's worth it rather than having to put 10 times the time into them. So where is Wrangler now? That's a big question. So at the sale, Wrangler sold to this cow horse trainer that I told you about. Now he called, or I talked to him, like I said, a couple months after, and he says to me, "How did you even get shoes on that horse?" Which I did bring some drugs to calm him down when we were going to put shoes on. But Rod, my farrier, he's a heck of a horseman. He said, "I don't want to use those. Let's just put shoes on him." And so he shod Wrangler with no drugs in him. and Wrangler did good. Rod just took it slow, but yeah, this cow horse trainer said that his farrier couldn't even get the shoes off of him. And so, like, he got him home. He said that was the wildest horse he's ever seen. He said that horse was striking at his hose and doing this and doing that, and it's hard for me to hear that, because obviously when I train a horse, and like I said, I want success stories, and he said he's rode him quite a bit, but he was a little too much for him. So he sold him to this other horse trainer who actually lives near Cardston here, and that horse trainer, he's quite the cowboy. I know everything I hear about him is that he's a hand, and even he said 4 months into working Wrangler, now and then a semi would be driving by a mile away and put on its air brakes, and Wrangler would grab his butt, but now I know that guy's roping off of him, and he was in the heart of the horse this last year. And during his clinic, he was riding Wrangler. So it's super cool to be able to see that he's actually really come around and turned into a great using horse. But it's taken so long. And so who should ride horses like Wrangler? If you want to ride a Wrangler, you can, but you better be a heck of a rider. You better have a good seat. You better be confident. Would I do it again? I think I found out what I needed to find out for myself. No, I would not do it again. If a person only lives one life, there was a lot of sketchy times. Now, if I took a lot more time with him, I probably could have avoided some of that, but I didn't have that much time due to the fact that the challenge was 60 days away. Was it worth it? 100%. It was one of the most rewarding things I have done. And so my encouragement to you guys, with your horses, in your horse life, challenge yourself. Look at these areas and that you feel like you need to improve, study up on it, do exercises like the one person that was commenting back there about her anxious horse on the ground. Start getting your horse thinking. Start building on what you have. Don't get in that rut that I talked about. So find a program. This is my biggest thing. This is where my whole horsemanship stuff turned. And I have a lot to learn yet, but my turning point happened when I picked a trainer's program and I stuck with it. And that's when I was really able to, see what they were talking about. I was like, what the heck is picking up the shoulders? What the heck is this? But when I watched the program, followed it step by step, that's when things started to change. And I was seeing a lot more improvement. And that's how I got to the point where I could ride a horse like Wrangler. And so find those things you want to work on them, and do hard things, because like Wrangler for me was so rewarding. Things that push you with your horse are going to be rewarding, and they're going to be the things that you remember and the things that got you to that next stage. And so I guess without further ado, Ella texted me the 3 names who are winners for a 1-year free subscription to our training program. So this will get them access to all of our training content that's exclusive to our website, and to all of our lives, ebooks, everything. So the 3 winners is Jamie Roberts, Sharon Tharp, and Shade Primrose. I am just going to pull up. So Jamie Roberts is from South Carolina. Sharon Tharp is from Indian Valley, Idaho, and Shade Primrose, he's a good friend of mine. You might have seen my video with his sister, or taking his sister's horse up to her a few weeks back. But super excited. Congratulations, guys. And for everyone else, if you hadn't had a chance to subscribe to our emailing list, go to our website, download our ebook, and if you're interested, check out our training program. My whole purpose here is just to help people learn what I've learned. So thanks for tuning in. We're going to be here next Tuesday. Take care, everyone, and happy holidays.